Hello everyone and welcome to my Beyond the Gates CBS Update 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Beyond the Gates, spoilers: Vernon and Anita clash as old wounds reopen while Dany's secret threatens to destroy everything. For years, Vernon and Anita Dupree have been the gold standard of Fairmont Crest. When everyone else was falling apart, they stood strong. When families fractured, they found solutions. When chaos erupted, they remained calm. They weren't perfect, but together they were as close to perfect as any couple could be. That is exactly why what happens next is so surprising and so dangerous. Because for perhaps the first time in a long while, Vernon and Anita find themselves standing on opposite sides of an issue that neither is willing to let go. The disagreement begins quietly. No shouting, no dramatic accusations, no explosive confrontation, at least not initially. Instead, it starts with concern. The kind of concern that only exists when two people care deeply about the same thing but see completely different paths forward. In the wake of Kat's surgery, Ava's recovery, Martin's election victory, and the ongoing fallout from the tornado, emotions remain high throughout Fairmont Crest. Everyone is carrying stress. Everyone is carrying fear. Everyone is carrying unanswered questions. And unfortunately, those pressures are beginning to affect even the strongest relationships, especially Vernon and Anita's, the couple everyone thought was unbreakable. Anita has spent weeks facing one challenge after another. Her cancer battle remains ongoing. The family continues leaning on her for strength. And despite her own health concerns, she continues putting everyone else's needs ahead of her own. It's what Anita does. It's who she is. Yet recent events have changed her perspective. Watching Kat risk her life to save Eva. Watching Nicole and Ted unite for their daughter. Watching Leslie experience genuine fear for her child. Watching entire families gather together in crisis. All of it has reminded Anita how fragile life can be. The tornado served as a brutal reminder that tomorrow isn't promised. One minute people are arguing. The next minute they're praying for miracles. As a result, Anita has become increasingly focused on forgiveness, on healing, on letting go of old grudges before it's too late. Vernon understands that perspective. He really does. But understanding it and agreeing with every aspect of it are two different things. Because while Anita is willing to extend grace, Vernon remains more cautious, more practical, more skeptical, especially when it comes to certain people. And that difference in outlook is about to create unexpected friction. Anita wants peace. The issue centers around recent developments involving Leslie. For years, Leslie has caused pain throughout Fairmont Crest. Manipulations, lies, schemes, betrayals. The list seems endless. Yet after Eva's medical crisis, Anita believes she has witnessed something different, something genuine. For the first time, Leslie appeared vulnerable, human, broken. Watching her daughter fight for survival stripped away much of her usual bravado. The experience appeared to change her, at least temporarily. Anita wants to believe people can grow. She wants to believe people can learn from tragedy. She wants to believe that everyone deserves a chance to become better, especially after witnessing Kat's sacrifice. Life is too short for endless hatred, too short for permanent grudges, too short to spend every day reliving old battles. So Anita begins suggesting that perhaps Leslie deserves an opportunity. Not complete trust, not instant forgiveness, but an opportunity, a chance, a fresh start. And that's where the trouble begins. Vernon isn't convinced. Unlike Anita, Vernon isn't quite ready to embrace that idea. He's seen too much, experienced too much, watched too many people make promises they never intended to keep. While Anita sees potential growth, Vernon sees a pattern that has repeated itself repeatedly over the years. Leslie behaves, then she lashes out. She apologizes, then she creates another problem. She appears remorseful, then she repeats the same behavior. From Vernon's perspective, caution isn't cruelty, it's common sense. He doesn't necessarily oppose forgiveness. What he opposes is blind faith, and he worries that Anita's compassionate nature may once again leave her vulnerable to disappointment. The disagreement remains respectful. Neither raises their voice, neither attacks the other. Yet the tension is impossible to ignore, because beneath the conversation lies something deeper: fear. Anita fears wasting precious time holding on to anger. Vernon fears being hurt by someone who hasn't truly changed. Neither perspective is wrong, and that's precisely what makes the conflict so compelling. The tornado's secret refuses to stay buried elsewhere. Another crisis continues brewing, one far more explosive than anyone realizes. Dany Dupree has spent every day since the tornado trying to convince herself that what happened in that elevator can remain buried forever. Unfortunately, secrets have a way of resurfacing, especially on soaps. Andre has noticed subtle changes. At first he dismissed them. Dany seemed distracted, shaken, emotional. Of course she was. She survived a tornado. She spent hours trapped in an elevator. Anyone would be affected. But the longer time passes, the more questions emerge. Something doesn't add up. And Andre is beginning to sense it. The issue isn't necessarily what Dany says. It's what she doesn't say. The details she avoids. The moments she glosses over. The conversations she redirects. The emotional reactions that seem slightly too intense. Andre knows his wife, perhaps better than anyone. And lately she doesn't seem like herself. That observation leads him to ask questions. Questions Dany desperately doesn't want to answer. Andre begins connecting dots. One conversation becomes another. One question becomes several. Nothing accusatory, nothing direct, just curiosity, concern. A husband trying to understand what his wife experienced, yet every question feels dangerous to Dany, because she knows where the truth leads. Straight to Bill, straight to betrayal, straight to the destruction of her marriage. She hates herself for what happened. She regrets it. She wishes she could erase it. But none of those feelings change reality. The truth exists, and if Andre discovers it, everything changes. So she continues lying. Continues protecting the secret. Continues pretending that the elevator ordeal was exactly what everyone believes it was. A terrifying experience she endured alone. The problem, of course, is that she wasn't alone. And every day that passes makes maintaining that lie increasingly difficult. Naomi notices something strange. Meanwhile, Bill Hamilton continues struggling with his own guilt. Though he hides it well, the aftermath of the tornado has affected him more than he admits. His thoughts constantly drift back toward Dany. The memories, the mistakes, the consequences waiting to happen. Unfortunately for him, someone notices. Naomi, Bill's daughter, has never been particularly interested in seeing her parents reunite. Neither she nor Chelsea fantasize about Bill and Dany becoming a couple again. Quite the opposite. They've accepted the divorce, moved on, adjusted, which is exactly why Naomi becomes suspicious. Something feels off. Bill appears distracted, preoccupied, almost haunted, and she can't help wondering why. What is her father thinking about? What is he hiding? And why does his attention seem fixed somewhere it shouldn't be? Naomi may not have evidence. Not yet. But instinct can be powerful, and her instincts are beginning to awaken. Tomas has a surprise nobody sees coming while secrets and suspicions dominate much of Fairmont Crest. Tomas is focused on something entirely different. Kat. After everything she endured, after nearly losing her, Tomas has gained a new appreciation for how precious life truly is. Watching her unconscious in that hospital bed changed him. The experience forced him to confront emotions he could no longer ignore. His future isn't some distant possibility anymore. It's something he wants to build. Now. Not later, not eventually, now. That realization leads him toward a decision. One that catches Chelsea completely off guard. Whatever Tomas has planned, it appears significant, important, potentially life-changing. Chelsea certainly isn't expecting it. And based on the spoilers, the surprise may have major implications for Kat's future. Especially if Tomas decides that life is too short to keep postponing the things that matter most. A storm's aftermath continues. The tornado may be gone. The winds may have stopped. The skies may have cleared. But the damage continues spreading through Fairmont Crest. Relationships are shifting. Secrets are growing. Old wounds are reopening. New conflicts are emerging. And even the strongest bonds are being tested. Vernon and Anita are discovering that love doesn't eliminate disagreement. Dany is discovering that guilt doesn't erase consequences. Andre is discovering that intuition can be impossible to ignore. Naomi is discovering that something feels wrong. And Tomas may be preparing to make a decision that changes everything. As these stories collide, one thing becomes increasingly clear. The tornado didn't end when the storm passed. Its true impact is only beginning. And before this chapter closes, several lives may be changed forever. Anita refuses to give up on people later that evening. Anita reflects on everything that has happened over the last several weeks. Cancer forced her to confront her own mortality. The tornado forced the entire community to confront theirs. Then came Kat's sacrifice. A young woman willingly risking her own life to save someone she barely tolerated. The experience changed Anita, perhaps more than anyone realizes. Watching Kat make that choice reminded her how quickly circumstances can change. One day people are arguing. The next they're fighting for another chance. That reality has made Anita increasingly determined to stop wasting emotional energy on old grudges. She knows Leslie has hurt people. She knows Leslie has manipulated situations. She knows Leslie has caused chaos. But she also saw something in that hospital: fear. Real fear. A mother terrified of losing her child. And Anita believes moments like that reveal a person's true heart. Maybe Leslie isn't completely transformed. Maybe she still has flaws, but Anita believes people deserve the opportunity to prove they've changed, especially after experiencing genuine trauma. The problem is convincing Vernon. Vernon delivers a harsh reality check when the conversation resumes. Vernon remains calm, measured, respectful, but firm. He understands Anita's compassion. It's one of the reasons he fell in love with her. Her ability to see good in people is remarkable. But sometimes that same gift becomes a weakness. Vernon reminds her how many times they've watched people promise change. How many times they've witnessed apologies that led nowhere. How many times they've seen history repeat itself. He isn't saying Leslie can't change. He's saying she hasn't earned trust yet. There's a difference. A significant difference. And from Vernon's perspective, confusing those two things can be dangerous. Especially for someone like Anita, whose heart is already carrying enough burdens. For a moment, silence settles between them. Not angry silence, thoughtful silence. The kind shared by two people who genuinely respect each other despite disagreeing. Because that's the thing about Vernon and Anita. Even when they're on opposite sides, love remains present. The question is whether love alone will resolve this conflict, or whether outside events will force one of them to reconsider. Dany's anxiety reaches new levels across town. Dany is discovering that secrets become heavier with time. What happened with Bill was supposed to stay buried. One terrible decision. One moment of weakness. One mistake created by fear and uncertainty. Nothing more. At least that's what she keeps telling herself. Unfortunately, reality keeps interfering. Every conversation with Andre feels dangerous. Every question feels loaded. Every glance feels suspicious. Even when Andre isn't actively investigating, Dany feels exposed. The guilt has become exhausting. She lies awake at night replaying the elevator, replaying every choice, replaying every second she wishes she could take back. Yet regret changes nothing. The truth still exists, and somewhere deep down, Dany knows secrets rarely stay hidden forever, especially in Fairmont Crest. Andre notices more than she thinks. Andre may not know exactly what happened, but he's beginning to recognize patterns, the avoidance, the defensiveness, the emotional distance. They're subtle changes, easy for outsiders to miss, but not for him. He's spent years loving Dany, years studying her expressions, years learning her tells. When something is bothering her, he notices, always. That awareness creates a dangerous situation, because the more Dany tries to hide the truth, the more suspicious her behavior becomes. It's a cycle neither of them fully understands yet, and it's leading towards something inevitable, a confrontation. Not necessarily today, not necessarily tomorrow, but eventually, because Andre isn't the kind of man who ignores instincts, and his instincts are getting louder. Bill makes things worse, as if Dany's situation weren't complicated enough. Bill continues contributing to the problem. Every interaction between them feels awkward now. Every accidental encounter carries tension. Every shared glance risks revealing too much. Neither wants to discuss what happened. Neither wants to revisit it. Yet neither can completely forget it. That's the problem with secrets shared between two people. Even silence becomes meaningful. And unfortunately for both of them, people are starting to notice. Maybe not the truth. Not yet, but definitely the tension. And tension invites questions. Questions invite investigation. Investigation uncovers answers. It's a chain reaction already beginning to unfold. Naomi starts asking questions. Naomi can't shake the feeling that something is wrong. The more she observes her father, the more convinced she becomes. Bill isn't acting like himself. He's distracted, agitated, preoccupied, and whenever certain topics arise, his reactions seem unusually intense. At first, Naomi assumes work stress is responsible. Then she considers the tornado. Then she considers Haley. But none of those explanations fully fit. Something else is happening. She doesn't know what. She doesn't know why. But she's paying attention now. And sometimes attention is all that's needed to start unraveling a secret especially a secret as explosive as this one. Tomas stuns Chelsea. Meanwhile, Chelsea receives the surprise nobody expected. Tomas seeks her out privately. His expression immediately tells her something important is coming. This isn't casual conversation. This isn't small talk. This matters. At first, Chelsea worries something happened to Kat, but Tomas quickly reassures her. But Kat is recovering. That's not the issue. The issue is him. Or more specifically, his future. The tornado changed his perspective. Nearly losing Kat changed his perspective. Watching her fight for her life changed everything. And now he refuses to keep living as though tomorrow is guaranteed. Chelsea listens carefully as Tomas explains that he's thinking differently about commitment, differently about priorities, differently about the future he wants. The details remain vague at first, but Chelsea quickly realizes where the conversation is heading, and when the full truth emerges, she's stunned, because Tomas appears ready to make a move that could permanently alter his relationship with Kat, one that suggests he's no longer interested in simply dating her. He's thinking much bigger than that, much bigger. Chelsea's emotional reaction for once, Chelsea is speechless. Not because she disapproves, because she understands. The tornado affected everyone differently. For Tomas, it clarified what matters most. Life isn't guaranteed. Time isn't guaranteed. Love isn't guaranteed. When you find something worth fighting for, sometimes you have to stop waiting. Chelsea knows Kat better than almost anyone. She knows how fiercely Kat loves. How fiercely she protects herself. How terrified she can be of vulnerability. The idea of what Tomas may be planning excites Chelsea, but it also worries her, because Kat is still healing, physically, emotionally, psychologically. The experience of nearly dying changes people. The question now becomes whether Tomas's surprise will bring joy, or create complications neither of them anticipates. The calm before another storm as night settles over Fairmont Crest. Several lives stand at Crossroads. Anita and Vernon continue wrestling with questions of forgiveness and trust. Dany continues carrying a secret capable of destroying her marriage. Andre continues noticing inconsistencies. Bill continues making mistakes. Naomi continues asking questions. And Tomas continues preparing for a future that suddenly feels more urgent than ever before. For now, everything remains relatively quiet. Conversations, suspicions, private worries, personal decisions. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe my channel without missing any update.